a little more than 50% of agencies do their own hosting as a service that they do for their customers. Whether it's actually done by them or, of course, outsourced is a different game, but they offer it as a service to their customers directly. That also means there's about 45% of agencies that literally drive traffic into different hosting brands with their recommendation. And it's been somewhat commoditized or democratized with these tools that allow you to just spin up these like dashboards that you can bring your clients and white label it and make it all seem like it's yours.
To transition from partnering with hosting,
Moving more towards organizing hosting of their own. We actually ran a survey about this as well before. What do agencies look for in a host? At around 70%, all they want is quality support. If you run an agency, you know that experience of a client calling you up, freaked out that the website is down or that something happened, and then you need to deal with the host and figure that one out as quickly as possible. Some hosting providers understood that. They charge a premium.
my guest is Vito Peleg, an entrepreneur and web designer. He built his first website at 14 in the late 90s and later ran a web agency based in London. Frustrated by project delays, he founded Atarim, a tool that helps agencies communicate more effectively with end clients. Today, it's used by over 51,000 teams to collaborate with more than 1.4 million stakeholders and customers, and it's become a hot topic among web hosting providers. Vito also organizes the Web Agency Summit, the largest online event for agencies. We're talking about his beginnings, insights into web agencies and their relation with web hosting providers, his event, and his music career that's surprisingly connected to business. Vito, thank you for joining, and let's start with the standard question I ask every guest. Tell us about your story. How did it happen that you are in charge of one of the hottest value-added service for the hosting providers nowadays? A lot of companies are implementing Atarim. Also, you're organizing web agency summits, and I guess you were involved in a bunch of other initiatives. So tell us about your beginning. How did it all start?
Actually, I got into web design around the same time that I started learning music. And that was kind of around the age of 14. From the website side, it was on GeoCities, if you remember, Conrad, back in the day. They gave us 10 megabytes to kind of upload some stuff. And I used the 1 hour that my parents allowed me to be online per day to hang on the phone to kind of upload what I was working on during the day and see it sitting online, which was a really cool achievement at the time.
What year
Uh,
was it?
that was 97, I guess. 90, yeah,
Wow.
something like that.
Okay. So I don't remember this one because I had 7 years.
Right.
So I was just playing Legos at the time.
Yeah, yeah. So Legos also. At the time, I was really into South Park, so I built these Windows skins of icons and like a cursor kind of animations. And I wanted to kind of get this to a few other people. I thought, "Oh, I'll just build a small website to let people
Oh,
download these little icons." That was kind of the first game. And then, yeah, at the same time, I kind of started playing the guitar. And that was my main focus, even though I had like small businesses from the side, I had like a social media, a marketing agency at the time, like a small one. But mostly I was focused on the music side, which allowed us to get signed at the time and move to the UK, where we started touring all over Europe while still building websites from the back of the van. Like then at that point, it was like about stealing Wi-Fi from McDonald's as we were driving past,
okay.
before 4G. And, and then when we turned 30, and it wasn't really nice to live in a smelly van with four other guys, I kind of settled in London, where I started building an agency with now my co-founder Rome, and we're building hundreds of websites pretty fast. We got to around 600 websites built and a bunch of projects for startups that were trying to test out ideas, MVPs, and kind of like these initial versions for web apps. And business was good, but it was a pain in the ass working with clients, getting them to give us the information that we needed. If you built a website before, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right, Conrad?
Yes, but politically, I refuse any comments on how is it to work with customers.
Yeah, well, it was great to have the customers, but actually get them to
Yeah.
give us the information and to work with us was just super painful. So at some point, we created a tool that was supposed to just help us. It worked like magic, so we brought this to market as a WordPress plugin. It was called WP Feedback at the time, and we were lucky enough to run like a nice launch campaign from all of the stuff that we learned during the agency days of how we ran campaigns for our customers. We just did one for ourselves, and we became the first company in the WordPress space that generated more than six figures in revenue in the first 30 days. That kept on going for that first year, and that gave us like a nice baseline to start working on the solution, expanded this to a SaaS, and started serving more and more agencies. And then through that, some of the hosting brands started coming in organically. And really, that was an interesting point because I thought that something was broken, because most of agencies build about an average about 30 websites a year. But then we had one account doing 700 projects a month, and I was like, there's some sort of a bug here, or someone is abusing the system.
Yeah,
And
scum.
yes. But when we looked into it, it was just like a hosting company that was building those websites for their clients. So I wasn't aware of this model at the time. And of course, one of the bigger ones, we started getting in touch with them and try to encourage more of this concept, which is when someone invited me to CloudFest around the same time with that same thing. You should work with agents, with the hosting companies, which again,
Yeah.
it wasn't on my radar at all. We were hyper focused on getting thousands and thousands more of these agencies. But I went, and that really changed the trajectory of where the business went to. And now we're being used by the biggest, three of the top five hosting brands around the world to power their do-it-for-me operations. So whenever they build websites for their clients, they use our software and our
Mhm.
services also to make sure that the project goes smoothly to the other side. But yeah, it kind of brings us to now, where the main focus for this coming year is, of course, to expand on that and work with more of these partners. You and I just came off of CloudFest just last week,
Yeah.
but also want to get us into the hands of internal teams. So as we started as an agency, the product was built for us to help us as an agency. But now, as a product team or a software company, we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of these adaptations to make sure that we can still use our own product and keep getting high on our own supply, as we call this.
Right.
So one of the main focuses for this year is to approach this market as well and make sure that more internal teams, marketing teams, product teams get to use Atarim to do exactly the same thing that we're doing for the hosts and the agencies.
All right, so we'll be talking a bit more on Atarim, but let's go back and talk about agencies. You've been running agency for many years, and also, well, it's pretty obvious. Agencies and web hosters are creating some sort of an ecosystem together. What is your view on that ecosystem? What's the state of that ecosystem in 2025, and maybe what are the trends that are visibly changing, the way that they operate and cooperate together?
So there's actually pretty interesting transitions going on in this space at the moment. First of all, something to understand is that a little more than 50%, based on the latest survey that we ran about a year ago, a little more than 50% of agencies do their own hosting. And so they're leveraging tools that are now out there, like Cloudways and GridPane, and all of these kind of, but sometimes also reseller programs, and
Mm-hmm.
they basically have hosting as a service that they do for their customers. Whether it's actually done by them or, of course, outsourced is a different game, but they offer it as a service to their customers directly.
Interesting.
That also means there's about 45% of agencies that literally drive traffic into different hosting brands with their recommendation. Back in the day, that was my model. We had a few of these three hosting brands that we were working with at the time, and we had basically videos that were shared with clients. Just do that. So don't click any of the add-ons, and don't check this on, and don't check this on the checkouts.
Yeah.
When they're going through, and kind of steer them into the right package, and then we just ask for the login details and come in. So that's the kind of the second half of the space. I think that a lot of times hosting brands come into this with I don't want to compete with agencies in some cases, especially when it comes to like services and things like that. Agencies do compete, so more than half of them actually offer the service directly because they understand that this is a great way to keep the relationship going and increase the ARPU over time, time, in the lifetime value of a customer through these
Hmm.
engagements. And hosting is usually low maintenance type of activity, and it's been somewhat commoditized with these tools, or democratized with these tools that allow you to just spin up these like dashboards that you can
Yeah.
bring your clients and white label it and make it all seem like it's yours. So yeah, so I see that transition happening a lot more in the recent years. I think that agencies want that revenue.
Just to understand, so transition from partnering with hosting or organizing hosting on their own.
So moving more towards organizing hosting of their own. That's
Oh,
really is
that's
the
very
trend
interesting.
that's been emerging over the past few years. It became a lot easier than it was a few years ago for them to just go into one of these platforms and just spin this up, and they have their own brand under the agency logo, and they
Hmm.
control the relationship in that way. But yeah, a lot more of that for sure.
Interesting. What about site builders or tools that are not exactly WordPress, let's say, or their own HTML based frameworks, or maybe what about some no code?
So I think there's a really powerful transition going on now with AI coming into the space of
Oh, yeah.
website generation and creation. I have a perspective about this that it's not there to just eliminate the whole thing completely. And actually, the advance that people are getting from it, even though it looks very impressive, is not that big compared to what some outsiders might. And the reason for it is because there's basically the two audiences, or we actually observe three audiences in the website market. There's the DIYers, the people that will, as we say, go and buy the burger, bake the bun,
Yeah.
like the vegetables, and actually make it at home for themselves. So they go through the pain. They need to source and understand how to do this, learn how to do this, and sometimes get a few tools to make sure that it's done right. Some go through the pain and they end up with a result. It takes about 100 hours for someone that is doing this for the first time to get to something that is a solid result, like from a professional in that same way. We were working with templates just up until a year ago, where if I'm a plumber, I just go in and I type in I'm a plumber, and I would get a template done.
Hmm.
It's just use
Hmm.
that template. Now, a lot of these AI tools are generating these templates for us. And so we basically kind of introduced the step in that way, which is a less reliable state than just a template that a human did, or maybe an AI created the pre-made template and just
Yeah.
deployed it. But now you get all these variations. So it's kind of a bit wonky still of an experience. On the other end, you get the content, which was a big advance compared to previously done through AI, which is super powerful. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the agencies, which are basically the clients that go to agencies are the ones that are looking for the chef. They want to do the kind of really special experience. I want the bacon and the egg and the mushrooms and all the kind of stuff on my burger, and I'm willing to pay a premium for that service, for that white glove kind of like experience of going through it. And then the middle section, which a lot of people sometimes kind of dismiss, even though the bigger brands have already figured it out decades ago, is the different side, is the people that don't want to spend 100 hours and make the burger themselves, but they can't afford going on to the chef, and all they want is a McDonald's, just someone that they can come in, get the food, get this done quickly, systemized. It might not look like a 100% customized for my needs, but that's fine. I ate. I'm fed. It took
Yeah. Good enough.
yeah, it was a lot quicker than making it. And so that is really like a middle section there that is sometimes is missed.
Right. Okay, but so looking in general at this landscape of agencies, what do you think are the biggest challenges that the guys are facing? Obviously, AI and AI builders may be taking some share of the market, as you said, making it just easier for just a rookie to make a simple
Yeah.
site and that's it. Can you say a bit more about those challenges, I guess, other than AI?
I think the DIYers will always be DIYers, and that's cool. Like I think you are a DIYer, or at least you started as one, as well as
Yeah.
myself, and that's how sometimes we end up doing these things when we kind of fall in love with it. If we never tried, we would never been where we are now. But some people, they just want to get on with their business and just want someone else to do it for them, whether it's easy a little easier, I think that the interesting thing about websites and design as a whole is that it's subjective. It's not, there's no such thing as the best design or the best designer in the world. There's just
Yeah.
perspectives that are being brought in from different walks of life, different experiences, and different skill sets that end up as just decisions on the design itself, on the UI. So I don't think that while AI will be able to enable the experience to be a lot easier, I don't think that it's eventually going to replace the professional that actually knows what is the right thing to do. And really, when I started building websites back in the day, you would code the whole page up from scratch, right? So you'd write the whole HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript that is needed to actually run the. Then so we would use our keyboard. Now we moved over to drag and dropping with the low code, no code tools, and you basically, or even in Figma, you create rectangles on a
Mm.
screen. So we moved basically to the mouse. And I think that where this is going to go to is to the voice, perhaps with AI, and we're just going to be doing pretty much the same activity, only with a different interface.
Mhm.
So you needed to know what you wanted to build or what is the goal of what you're trying to create in order for you to write up the HTML. You also needed to have the skill of the HTML. Then it was easier because you dragged and dropped, but you still needed to have the vision and the understanding of what is correct, what is not correct. And I think that that's still going to remain the same, at least in the next couple of years, with how AI is shaping up to be like a tool for designers that will speed up their work dramatically, create another 90% reduction in the delivery time compared to writing code to no code tools, and then now from no code tools to AI tools. So it's going to squash the creation time, but you still need to have the skill and the understanding of what is correct.
You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you want something good, if you want a solid quality solution, you got to bring in all of this context that it's very hard to provide to an AI fully.
Right. So just finishing on agencies and web hosters, can you say a bit about what are the good practices and bad practices in their relation that you see and
Right.
are pretty obvious, but sometimes these guys just don't notice them, and they eventually may be losing customers or just making it harder for them.
So we actually ran a survey about this as well before a talk that I gave at CloudFest last year, which was around what do agencies look for in a host? And we basically
Yeah.
posed that question. And what we found was pretty interesting. A lot of times people think about like the cost or the reseller abilities and those kind of things to enable agencies. But actually, I think it was pretty clear at around 70% of something. I don't want to say exactly the number. It was around something like a
Yeah.
two-thirds type of game that all they want is quality support, really,
Okay.
because if you're dealing with or that was the number one. The number two was like client management and agency related tooling that will enable them to manage multiple accounts at the same time. A reseller and a good affiliate program came in at single digits in comparison, so there was a very big gap between the two, what you would think and what actually happened. And I think that we all know these types of experiences, or if you run an agency, you know that experience of a client calling you up, freaked out that the website is down or that something
Yeah.
happened. And then you need to deal with the host and figure that one out as quickly as possible. And some hosting providers understood that they charge a premium for that support, for that quality support. But you speak to a human that is knowledgeable straight away within a matter of minutes or
Hmm.
sometimes even seconds, as opposed to some others that are more look at their support like they're supporting SMBs.
Yeah.
So you need to go through these layers of technical this, and they tell you like, did you restart the computer? Kind of basic
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And but as a professional, you know sometimes what needs to happen. Even just need the help or support of someone that will actually execute that on their side, and not take you through that. Like even in the NHS, like here in the UK, when you call for a doctor, they take you through a 20-minute interview of are you bleeding from your eyes? Are you all these kind of weird questions? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, I just need to talk to someone quickly. And so that
Yeah.
is the number one thing for sure.
And number two, that actually caught my attention. The tooling. What do you mean exactly by that?
So we've been seeing a few of the hosting brands building these types of dashboards recently, and I think it's a very good initiative to try and make sure that agencies have it easier managing multiple accounts. For example, as I mentioned in the beginning, back in the day, we would ask for the hosting details. Give me the name, the password, the username, the password. We would log in as the customer and then talk to the support if needed, make changes if needed, do all those kind of things. Now there's centralized tools within many of the hosting companies where allow you to either start a project without paying for it, so you can deploy all of the tools that you need, the hosting plans that you need, set up the WordPress or whatever kind of other tool you would want in there, set up the email, all of those kind of things. Then once you hand this to the client, then they pay, and then the billing is attached to them, but you still have control or responsibility over these sub accounts that you can manage for them, still under the brand of the hosting company. I think that's a really cool way of doing this. Also, doing stuff like what Manage WP does or Main WP, where you are able to update plugins and themes and WordPress related stuff from the dashboard of the agents, from the dashboard of the host, but even better, from a centralized dashboard that allows you to manage all of the clients in one place. We're doing a bunch of integrations with hosting brands with Atarim to kind of bring in that collaboration, workflow management aspect of it. And yeah, it seems that that agencies start to expect the host to treat them not like an SMB.
That's actually interesting, especially in relation that I am, running Panel Alpha. It's kind of a little confirmation that we're on the right track
Yes.
to make it easier for agencies and professionals. And also, we will have Atarim integration as well soon. So
Awesome.
we're on the right track. So let's talk about Atarim. What is Atarim? Your pitch, 1 minute. What it is.
So we're a visual collaboration system that helps design teams streamline the workflow of the design process. The way that I kind of like to describe the impact that we're making is the difference between building a website on your own or building it with someone else, whether that's a client or a team member. If I build a small business website on my own, I might do it in about 3 days as a professional, right? With the drag and drop tools. But if I try to do the same thing with a client, that then is going to go between 4 to 6 weeks. So that gap between 3 days to 6 weeks is what Atarim is focused on, which is the collaboration aspect. It's back and forth, scope creep, misalignment between different teams, tasks that fall between the cracks, copy pasting from one place to another, the spreadsheets and the email threads and all of those kind of things. We systemize that through the software.
Okay, and on top of that, you not only have the software but also the services to build websites. Is it also part
Yes.
of Atarim, or is it like a little additional thing?
This actually came from a need. So what we found is, as we were working with scaled up operations that were building hundreds and sometimes thousands of websites per month through our platform, what we learned is that there's a huge opportunity for other hosting partners or other hosting brands to do the same thing with their customers. It's that flow that when someone comes in, they buy the domain, they buy the hosting package, and then they're sometimes pushed into a DIY tool or WordPress to kind of like do their thing. Some will, like we said before, but some will just like, okay, I can't deal with this. Why am I doing it? I'm a barber. Let me cut hair, rather than building a website now. So it's the exercise of basically presenting an option for them. Just click here, pay $1,000, $1,500, and we'll just do it for you. And then the hoster basically runs the controls the billing with that client, and on the back end, the Atarim platform runs the entire project from the software perspective, but also from the fulfillment side, which has been a really interesting channel to unlock over the past couple of years. For sure. So we're trying to look at this from a more of a holistic view, coming in with hosts that want to launch this service. And we call that like DIFM in a box, where we're bringing them not only the software that is able to reduce the delivery time by half, that was proven by more than 1 million users that are out there, but also the knowledge and the go-to-market approach as to how do you launch these services to create the traffic that will actually convert, where are the right places to place the messaging in that way, what are the emails to send, what are the landing pages to write. So we provide them with literally 100% everything in a box, so they can launch do it for me service within their brand using our services and our tools.
Right. So this is the McDonald that you mentioned, is it?
Exactly that. Yes. It's exactly that. Yes.
And also, just to clarify, so this is your agency behind it, or do you work with freelancers, with the other agencies? How's the
So
structure?
what we did was look into our software, where there's already 53,000 teams that are using our solution with 1.4 million of their customers, clients, team members, and stakeholders. And we looked at the teams that are able to already deliver at the different levels of scale that would be required for our partners, and then we trained them on the system of how we are able to deliver in literally half the time. And sometimes people just say this, but it's literally half the time because we are able to do that. We are able to guarantee a fixed profit margin to the host on services, which is a very hard thing to do if you ever run a service type of business. The profit margins move up and
Yeah,
down
yeah,
with all kinds of different variables,
yeah. It depends.
but we are able to deliver consistently on that promise of a percentage, so that it makes the service seem like a software in the eyes of the host, which is what they like. That's what they know. That's what like that's when I realized, because going from services into software, it's a different mindset of how you approach scale and how do you approach so we try to kind of connect the two and create a place where we can guarantee those elements to our partners, just because we know exactly how we're delivering it based on these few teams, highly selected teams that work based on our systems and our processes, our communication cadence, all of those kind of the whole box is mentioned.
So there's no quotation process. You have like a fixed plans that they can pick.
Yes, McDonald. You go in, you point at the board and say, I wanna buy this e-commerce site. I
Yeah,
need 10 products. Great, we're gonna do that. I wanna buy this learning management system with one course. Great, here's
perfect.
checkout and sorted.
No, so you said it's attractive for the hosters to offer it, but also I imagine that for the end customers, it's just easy to make
Yeah,
the decision, right? Instead of click here, get a proposal, talk with us for like 2 weeks, and maybe you will work on something out. Here you have a simple plan, make a decision, click here, and you got it. So it's pretty impressive that you were able to achieve that. It's not easy, as you said.
Exactly that, because really what we found coming into this space is that every host gets these leads. They're coming in anyway, whether they like it or not. They're inside the support when someone comes in and asks, "Can you help me with this page?" Or "How do I change the logo there? How do I update my menu?" All of these questions. Or they would straight up come in and say, like, "Look, I tried to build a website, I can't do it. Do you have someone to recommend?" And most of them already have a bunch of providers that they just send the prospect to. And as a service, it's just like as a nice kind of gesture, not a service, but here are
Yeah.
3 providers, agencies that we know are good. Go talk to them, see what this, and then the client needs to call each one of them and get the quote from each one of them, understand which one is the right one, what's the thing that is a recipe for churn. And this is really what we're
Yeah.
trying to combat here, is just increase the activation rate of new customers that are coming in at that crucial time where they need to get to the result, which is a standing operational website. If they can't get it quickly enough, then they're probably gonna churn, which is the numbers show that it's the highest cost for churn for hosting brands. But on the back of it, then they go to the cousin's friend that recommends maybe someone else, and there's like, yeah, but I do my hosting here. Or I'm one of the 55% that hosted myself. So yeah, it's about kind of maintaining that, because you already paid for the acquisition cost. So we're trying to make sure that we treat that very, very clearly, that this is an account that needs to be activated as quickly as possible, so that they can still enjoy the emails and the SSLs and the other stuff.
Yeah, so you've said that it's very attractive for a hosting provider in as a model, as a way of offering websites
As a
as
service.
a as a service. Yes. What about the numbers? What about, like, let's say, conversion rates, or how? Let's say I'm a hosting provider, and well, at the end of the day, when you want to implement a new solution, you need some numbers to cover
Yeah.
it, right? What are your numbers that you're pitching
Right.
on?
So what we found is that or at least from our perspective, the average website project is at 1,250. but the numbers do vary dramatically when you look at different territories and different cohorts that the hosts serve. There's also kind of a direct correlation between the cost of the hosting package and the amount that the customer would be happy to invest, and how many of them would be happy to invest. So there's a few of these variables that kind of like block the initial part of understanding if it's going to be an efficient channel or less. It always is going to be profitable because we're talking about big numbers. So just to explain what I mean is like when someone comes in, they buy a domain, maybe that's 10 bucks a year. A hosting package on a shared hosting, 5 to 15, I guess that's kind of where the industry sits right now. But here in the first month, you already get about $1,500 from the customer, including the other services that you're doing. That puts the relationship on a completely different footing for both sides. One is that you already, from the host perspective, you already paid for the customer acquisition cost, I hope, and then from the customer's perspective, now you are the guy. Like anything else that comes their way that is on the digital side, they will come to you first. And that's another stat that we found that was very interesting is that 56% of the people that buy a website are happy to join a monthly retainer plan, or what we call a care plan. More than half are willing to pay about $50 on average per month, in addition to the hosting, to the domain, to the other stuff, just so that they can reach out to someone and they can tell them that they need to change this text or upload this image or add another landing page here or stuff like this. And that's the $50 is like the base plan over there. So this is a great way of building MRR. But again, also increasing the investment of the customer, which increases the connection and the relationship that you have together.
Impressive. What about the tooling? Just the tooling, because I guess this is also the starting point for most of the guys before they implement the website as a service, or is it not? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, not so much. Most have really what we're looking for from this perspective is folks that have that are working with SMBs. Because if you're working with SMBs, that there's a bunch of this opportunity already just sitting there on the table. For folks that work with agencies, that's less of a relevant kind of path. Because the agencies actually do the work and it's a different game. It's more B2B than B2C, if you will.
That's right.
And so we look for the ones that are focused on the shared hosting mostly, and attract small to medium businesses that need this kind of digital partner, essentially. Yeah, I think that. What was the question?
Yeah, so conversion rates on the tooling, not the website
Right.
service, but just the tooling, because I imagine this is the starting point of implementing Atarim in the web hosting business, right? It's, I guess, most of your customers just use the tooling as a starting point, and then depending on their situation, they decide to take the next step and have the website as a service, right?
And actually, no, not necessarily. A lot of them don't have this at all, or they try to do it at some point and it failed. Mostly exactly because of the reasons I'm describing. It's a pain in the ass building an agency, dealing with clients. Exactly the stuff that we were experiencing, they were experiencing, and it's much nicer and quieter to just sell software.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main reasons why people it was back in the day, it was the way it was done. So like if we look 20 years back, Conrad, all of the large hosts, that was the way that they were bringing in business. You'd offer the hosting and build the project for them. But then hosters moved out because of the pain of actually delivering the service to the client. And I think that that's what actually created the agency space, or at least brought in this wave of a bunch of freelancers that are building these small micro projects that are even below the cost threshold of a proper agency. Like because an agency should not take anything that is below K with the way that small boutique agencies operate. They are the chef. But so then all of these mini projects, they end up with the person that I'm in college and I'm just trying to figure it out. And I was the cousin's daughter. You know what I mean?
Typical story,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think that what kind of created this vertical is the fact that the host stepped back like about 15 years ago, but now they're coming in because it's much easier with drag and drop tools and with visual tools like Atarim to kind of actually make that happen in a much more consistent way and reliable way that is more similar to how software operates.
Excellent. So let's talk about Web Agency Summit. You're claiming, and I believe you, that this is the biggest event for web agencies out there, and it's also very interesting that it's online. So tell me about it, and why is it worth attending? Why is it worth sponsoring? I've seen that a lot of hosting providers are sponsoring it. So yeah, what is it about?
So the whole thing was a community exercise for us when we first started this. And it actually started, there's an interesting story of the beginning of it, because it was just as COVID kicked off, and you were asking also about like the online, why is this online? So I started Atarim towards the end of 2019, just before
Hmm.
COVID hit, and business was good, as I mentioned at the beginning. It was actually working very well at the beginning for a brand new brand, and so I wanted us to celebrate and actually do a proper launch at a big event. WordCamp Asia was just around the corner at the time,
Hmm.
so we launched toward the end of 2019, and WordCamp Asia was in Feb of 2020.
Yeah.
And so we sponsored, and we bought the swag, and for the first everything for the first time, because it was a brand new operation, we got the swag, and we bought the tickets, and we're gonna ship people over to Asia. It was in Thailand, so we said, okay, we're gonna have a little retreat over there while we were already in Thailand before the conference. Everything was lined up, and it was on the back of the fact that we're gonna see this money coming back in
Hmm.
opportunity and deals, and those kind of things. Maybe not immediately, but at some point. And so we did all that, and then 3 days before they canceled the event, COVID hit,
Yeah.
and
Great
so
timing.
yeah,
Perfect timing.
it was shocking, and I was like, okay, are we gonna make payroll in 2 months from now? What are we gonna do? Is it gonna end even before the whole thing really started? Because as you remember at the time, you would pick up the phone, call the flight, the hotels and the flight companies. No one answered anything, so
Yeah.
you didn't know if the money is gonna actually come back, and if there's can be longevity here. So my thought was like, okay, there was about 2,000 people already going to this event in Asia. They're not going anywhere now. They're stuck at home. Let's try and do something instead. And so we created that. As the first one was the WordPress Agency Summit. That was the first kind of iteration. And I spent 2 weeks at night, like a frazzle with a beard starting to grow in the early COVID kind of days. And I built a platform to help us run this event with like live streaming and like calls like you and I are having now in the networking areas. And we reached out to a bunch of the sponsors that were there. We luckily got folks like GoDaddy to jump in, WP Engine, background that came in on the first round. And we ended up we were hoping for about 500 people, and ended up with 3,000 attendees in the first
Wow.
round. The whole thing crashed on day one, as we weren't expecting that level of concurrent PHP workers were not lined up, to accommodate that. But luckily, we had all these awesome hosts already with us on the Slack channel. I was like, "What's going on?" It's like, "Oh, I have my AWS guy with me. Let's get on a huddle, and we'll figure it out." And within an hour, we're back online. And then it just became a really awesome experience of everyone coming together in the early days of COVID to kind of do something big. And every year we continued on that path. So year two we had 5,000. Year three was 7,500. Last time we had 10,500, and this time we're hoping to break that as well. It's in 10 days from now. So yeah, I'm very excited to see this. But from a content perspective, this is all about working with agencies through their growth journey.
Hmm.
Way we look at this is that you start as a freelancer, then you need to figure out a few of the team members to work with you. Then you need to figure out systems, scaling, customer acquisition, all the way to thriving as an agency, which is repeatable work coming in, expansion from existing clients, and the quality work delivered on time. And so all of these components are part of the content structure of the agency summit. And we look at this as like build, which is where you learn how to do those initial stuff. You have build, then expand, which is where you're starting to bring in care plans, additional services, maybe hosting as a service, maybe social media as a service to try and create some stability through recurring revenue. Then you have Scale, which is about customer acquisition, build team building, or things like that. And of course, Thrive, which is my favorite track, and this is more about like success stories from hyper successful agencies and product teams around the world that share what they did that made the shift for them, or some kind of a secret strategy that helps them do all kinds of cool stuff within their own operations. And this year we were lucky enough to have an incredible roster of speakers, not only from the agency world, but also we have folks coming in from Google and Figma and Canva and TypeScript and HubSpot and Lovable.dev and Bolt, those new kind of AI.
Big guys, big boys.
Yes, we're playing with the big boys now, and it started very modest and awesome over years to see this, and the team has done an amazing job finding these speakers for this year for sure.
Right, and congratulations as making a little community ourselves with web hosting today.
Yes,
It's always rewarding to surround yourself with people and make it more giveaway to some
yes,
extent. I imagine it's profitable, but whenever I speak with someone who's organizing events, it's also a lot of work,
oh
and
yeah.
it's not something that you must do, but it gives you that extra thrill, and it's very rewarding.
Yes, I 100% agree. Thank you. And it became this yearly thing. We do it once a year. We're not trying to become an events company,
Yeah,
but it's like you're saying, it's a nice thing for the community, for everyone to come together. It's a great opportunity for sponsors that want to get in front of agencies. It is literally the biggest one, and the second one after this is a third of its size. So that really helps a lot with now attracting those big speakers, big sponsors, and
excellent. All right, so last question is about your music career. For those who will be watching this in the video format, there are some guitars in the background. You had a very interesting music career. As you said, you were starting your, let's say, website agency in the back of the van when being on the road with your band. Yeah, so tell us about it. And actually, there's also interesting aspect to it, is that it is connected to business to some extent.
Yeah, so on the business side, I'm happy to be the lead guitarist for Lords of Uptime, which is the unofficial Cloudfest band. We just did our third show last week on the Monday. It's usually on the Monday that we get on stage. There's about 1,000 people from Cloudfest folks that join us and have a rock and roll show for an hour. And everyone else on the band are folks from the space. And I think that's one of the more exciting bits about this. That we're from different countries, different companies, different ages, different backgrounds, and really rock is what connects us and brings us together once a year on the Cloudfest stage. So I really love that. Huge credit to Soren, who is one of the leaders at Cloudfest, one of the founders of Cloudfest. That this is like his baby, and he's been running this for about 7 years, 5 years before I joined. Even the first drummer was the old CEO of GoDaddy at the time. So it just keeps it going, and I think that every year it just gets better and better, and people respond to it. It's a great kind of thing to be on stage once a year, because once after I used to do this 30 days a month. Now, actually, once a year is much better. A lot less stress, a lot more about the fun of it. Not waking up in weird beds in different places around the world.
Yeah, stealing internet from McDonald's and
Yeah,
also getting a McDonald's, like the website that you're offering.
exactly. Yeah,
It's all connected, man. Yeah, I think that's it. Great insights. I think it's very valuable for our listeners. Thank you, Vito, for
it's my pleasure.
having time.
Thank you for having me, Karan. It's great to see you again.